And welcome everybody. I'm Valerie Rogers. I work on the Homekeeper team. Cheryl, who is also on the Homekeeper team, is here as well. Do you want to introduce yourself, Cheryl?
Sure. My name is Cheryl Curry, and I provide training and support for the Homekeeper team. If you ever need assistance, you can always email support@myhomekeeper.org, and that will send questions to me so I can help you use Homekeeper to make your programs better and your job easier. I look forward to learning from everyone this morning.
Great. Thanks, Cheryl. So welcome, everybody. We've got some great habitats on the call this morning. I hope everybody had a wonderful 4th of July holiday. Today we're going to focus on talking about application processes, and we've got two really great presenters speaking with us today. We have Franklin Joyce from Electric Baby, who's a consultant who's worked with a lot of our habitat users, as well as Kylie Dayton, who's from Habitat for Humanity, Southern California, or Sonoma County, sorry. So just a reminder, if you can't hear us, you can connect your audio. There is a little audio button at the top. If you're having any audio issues, please let us know. You can type in the chat box, and Cheryl and I can make sure that you can hear us as well. And then if you have any questions, can everybody see the whole PowerPoint? We seem to be having some PowerPoint issues today. Okay, great. As long as people can see the whole PowerPoint. Perfect. I'm only seeing part of it. That's why I was asking everybody. So just to tell everybody, too, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box like Sarah just did. So if you're having any issues with anything, please let us know. We are working with habitats all across the country. Oh, it looks like Lydia's having issues seeing the PowerPoint, so hold on. One second, everyone. My apologies. Now can everybody see the whole PowerPoint? Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Lydia. Very helpful. We are working with habitats all across the country. We're up to about 20 habitat affiliates right now, so we are holding these meetings quarterly. And as we grow our habitat users, we will have more topics and more things to talk about as well. We do have some great habitats that are coming on this summer as well, including Habitat for Humanity New York City, Habitat for Humanity Capital Region, which is in Michigan, and then also we have some new users on the call today, which is Habitat for Humanity Lexington. So really great to be working with habitats. We really love convening these calls. So if there's any topics people are really interested in, please let us know, because we're really holding these so everybody can talk to each other. So our agenda today is we're going to do introductions. We're also going to talk about how your affiliate's currently tracking your application process. And then we're going to hear from Kylie, who's going to talk about how Sonoma County is tracking applications for multiple different programs. And then after that, we're going to hear from Franklin, who's going to talk about how you can track application documents in Homekeeper and Salesforce as well. And then if anybody has any questions, we'll answer those as well. And then we can talk about new meeting topics as well. So for introductions, we'd love everybody to introduce themselves with their name and their affiliate, their role at Habitat, and then what's one takeaway you want to receive from this meeting. If people want to type in the chat box, they can. You can also shout out who you are, and we'll be reading out where people are from as well. And it looks like a lot of people are typing, so this is great. If anybody would like to introduce themselves by phone, you can as well. Great. We have Lauren Hogshead, who's from Lexington Habitat, and Sarah and April, who are in their Family Services Department, and Lauren and Elaine from Finance. So we have a lot of people from Lexington today, and they're just getting started. We also have Sarah Hendricks from Lexington, She's Family Services Manager, and they're brand new to Homekeeper, so just excited to learn more from people. We also have Lydia and Angelica from Homeowner Services from Greater San Francisco, and they're looking to learn more about what others are doing in Homekeeper. We also have Lauren Gibson, who is a consultant from Coastal Cloud, and she'll be working with the Lexington Habitat team, and she's learning to learn more about how habitats are using Homekeeper, and she is also a former Habitat affiliate staff person. So we're happy to have you here, Lauren. I think we have a couple people. Mary, it would be great to, oh, perfect. Mary, who's calling from the New York State Support Office, and they want to learn more about how affiliates are using Homekeeper. They're using it as their main database for their state support organization. And I think that's pretty much everyone. Franklin, it would be great, and Kylie, it would be great too if you can type in who you are as well, but I know we'll hear from you in a couple minutes. And we have Kylie and Jasmine from Habitat Sonoma. They're both in Family Services, and Jasmine is brand new to Homekeeper too, so a big welcome to Jasmine. We're excited to get you up and running. And we also have Franklin Joyce on the line, who's a Salesforce development consultant. He considers himself a self-appointed Homekeeper team member. He's also a longtime Habitat consultant. Well, welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. We are going to do a couple polls to get to learn a little bit more about what people are doing in Homekeeper. So get ready to click some answers, but we're going to open some polls for people to answer. So the first one is your affiliate tracking application data in Homekeeper? Great. I think we have all the votes in. And it looks like about 2/3 of the people on the call are tracking their application data in Homekeeper, so that's fantastic. If you're interested in learning more ways you can track your application data, we can talk about that after this call as well, if you want to submit a support ticket. And then the second question is your affiliate tracking application workflow for your staff in Homekeeper? So this question is more about are you tracking the steps that your staff has to take as people are going through that application process? And some of those workflows are built into Homekeeper, but we know some groups are using them and some groups are not, so we really want to get a feel for, who's using them and who isn't. Great. Once again, it looks like about 2/3 of you are tracking your application workflow for staff in Homekeeper. And kind of as a follow-up to that, we'd love to find out who is tracking what kind of information related to that application workflow in Homekeeper. So we'd love to know more about, let me open this up so you can see it better, what kind of data that you're tracking related to that application workflow in Homekeeper. And this is multiple choice, so if you're doing multiple of the things, you can also vote multiple times. Great. For the person who checked other, I would love to know what other kind of things that you're tracking in Homekeeper. So if you want to type that in the chat box, or if you want to share what you're tracking, that would be wonderful. It's really great to learn. Sweat equity, Lydia, that's fantastic. That's one of the things that isn't built into Homekeeper currently, so it's always great to see when people are tracking sweat equity, and it's something that I know a lot of affiliates are really interested in. So we'd love if you could talk about that in a minute or two when we can share a little bit more information. And then our final question is, are you using an online application? So for those of your affiliates that are using Homekeeper, have you connected an online application to Homekeeper so that you can track all of your data? Great. So it looks like currently most groups are not using an online application, which is totally fine. It is something you can connect to Salesforce. Some affiliates have it, some don't. Sometimes it can be a time saver depending on how many applications you're getting. So if you have any questions about that afterwards, you can also ask us. And then my final question is, do you have any questions that you want to know about how you can track application data in Homekeeper? And this is a type-in question, so if you have specific questions you'd like to know, let us know, because we can answer some of those on the call today. Okay, great. It doesn't look like anybody has any specific questions. If you do have questions as you're working on your application process, you can definitely ask us. We also have a Habitat forum in our support forums where you can post questions to other habitats as well. So if there's anything you're wondering if other habitats are tracking, that could be a really great place to ask. Great. So we'd love to do a little bit of show and tell. So if people are willing to share either by audio or by typing in the chat box, we'd love to hear how your organization is tracking your application process, how you're using the application workflows to make program changes, if there's any specific process that you're working on in Homekeeper to save staff time. And then if you aren't using this to track your application process, we'd love to hear what some of your goals are. And Lydia, I would love, if you want to speak up, I would love to hear how you guys are tracking sweat equity. Great. Lydia, do you want to, if you want to unmute yourself, you can talk to us a little bit about how you're tracking sweat equity.
Hello? Can you hear me? Have I unmuted myself? Oh, great.
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear you.
I've never used Adobe before, so this is like a new interface.
It's always tricky the first time.
Yeah, so the way that we track sweat equity, it's kind of an object in our service file. We have a section that's sweat equity hours, and pretty much whenever homeowners or candidates are going to do their hours, they fill out a form and then they send me that form either by email or they'll fax it in with their daily hours that get signed off by the on-site supervisor or wherever they're doing their hours. And then when I get that form in, I'll manually add them. That's really what's the pain in the butt right now. But it's great that once they're all in, we can pull reports and just track how far families are in completion to their sweat equity goal. So it is in the service file, and then we are able to pull reports on families who are still doing sweat equity. So we'll have a status as on their service file that is sweat equity status versus just application submitted or withdrawn or whatever that might be once they've actually been selected to join the program and be able to start sweat equity. We'll change their status over to sweat equity until they finish. And then that kind of allows us to break the process up a little bit more from when they're in application process to when they're doing sweat equity to when they're homeowners and post-purchase. Does that make sense?
That's fantastic. And are you tracking the different hours that people are doing over time, or are you just adding them up and you have a total amount of hours?
No, it'll be every line item, so every day will be added individually. So we're able to see hours that are done on the construction site versus hours that are done with pre-purchase education or at the restore. So we're able to break it down day by day, and then we go a step further to track the different hours if it's construction or non-construction hours.
That's fantastic. The more we learn about groups tracking sweat equity, the more exciting it is. It's great to see the different ways you can break down the data to see kind of where people are at with their different percentages of hours. Thank you for sharing, Lydia. Does anybody else want to share? Well, thank you, Lydia. We really appreciate it. We'd love to maybe see you do a demo of that at a future call. That would be fantastic. I am going to pass the mic on to Kylie Dayton, who's from Habitat for Humanity, Sonoma County, which is in the Northern California. And Kylie's going to talk a little bit more about how they're tracking their application process for multiple programs.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kylie. So we can go to the next slide. So we're definitely in the transition from paper applications to online applications. To the left is our interest form for homeownership, and to the right is our application, and they're both built in form assembly. And Franklin, who's going to talk next, has been like an amazing consultant for that. And he's also helping us with our sweat equity tracking as well. So neither of these applications are live, and we still use like our paper files and everything where we have like our new documentation, but we have over the past few months been entering like all our old files into Homekeeper and our current partner families we have like all their income sources and things like that. And then we also have decided to continue using only paper applications for our repair program because it serves low-income seniors, and that's just easier for them. So in terms of like the applications that we're really tracking in Homekeeper, even though those are paper applications, those like everything goes right into Homekeeper, and we don't, like their paper files are much slimmer. We put everything in there. And that's for the repair program, but that's not up there. So yeah, you can go to the next slide. Unless if you want to look closer at those. Yeah. So this is how it looks in Homekeeper when you enter that online application. It all goes directly in here, thanks to Franklin. because that's way over my head. But so I would say it's great to have a consultant to help build some of these things because it can be really complex on the back end. So using the service file, it definitely makes the worksheet stage of our application process easier, because that's when we're doing different calculations of like income verification and making sure they're within the range of percent of area median income, and then qualifying their debt ratio, which can disqualify them, or their rent to income ratio, which can be an automatic indication of need. And we use the related lists, which would be at the top that are on the screenshot, to track those income sources and all their different debt items once we've run the credit report. So all that stuff makes it in here. And we also use it internally just to track the dates that we've received the application and what documents we've received and when we received those. And then when we go on home visit, all those dates in that process are entered in here as well, and we keep track of the status. Yeah, so you can go to the next slide.
Kylie, I think it's great to point out some of the steps that you guys are tracking as well, from looking at that last screen, that you guys are tracking all those great, like when you're collecting income as well. So that's great to see that you guys are tracking all those different documents that you're collecting.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that that section was on that screenshot, but there is just a section of just dates basically, which going back over our old files, it was really hard to figure out when things were done because they're paper files and they go back the last couple decades, and they're not super organized. So now it's going to be a lot easier to keep track of where people have been, how long they've been in the process, stuff like that. So this slide, probably all know we were hit by catastrophic wildfires in October, and so it's kind of totally changed our affiliate and made us have to become a disaster response affiliate. So we're coming up with new programs and kind of figuring out what the need is and how we're going to meet it, and we've been doing that for the last several months. And pretty much right away, we developed this interest form, which is on the left, and it's embedded in the website. That's the little picture. And Franklin helped us with that too. And it was definitely to just help us figure out what was needed and where people, their situations, if they had temporary housing, how much, if they lost everything, or if they lost, if they had repair work that needed to be done, if they were renters, if they had insurance. So that went up really early, and it creates intake records in Salesforce that we're able to run reports on, and just kind of share with our committees and our board and figure out, what our next steps are going to be and how we're going to serve this new population. So you can go to the next slide. So this is an example of this is our current homeowners, and we don't really use the metric side with the homeownership yet, partially because we just haven't been tracking a lot of data in this sense to help us influence that program. But we're talking about adding more questions at the interest level to homeownership that will help us develop the program more and understand more the affordable housing need in the community. But the fire actually kind of gave us the opportunity to figure out how that might look. So if you want to go to the next slide. This is our dashboard for those intake records. And we actually had a couple people from Homekeeper come up and help us set up this dashboard. That was Tiffany and Larry. So that was really cool. And there's basically a question or a different graph for every question on that form. And we can tell what the income ranges are and their AMI level, so that we know when we build this program, because we are going to be able to serve like a little bit higher of an income range, we need to know like all these nuances so that we can really build it to meet the need. And we presented this to our like rebuild committee and our board and everything. We can even share it with like major donors who want to see where their contributions are going to go. And so we're thinking of doing something like this with more specific information on the homeownership side as well to help influence that program. So it's kind of been that happening, this disaster happening, kind of made us have to figure a lot of stuff out, which I think will be helpful in the long run. But yeah, it's been a little crazy. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Kylie. It's so great to see the wonderful dashboard that you have for the disaster preparedness. It was so hard to see what you guys went through, and we got lucky in the fact that we also reached out to the Salesforce Foundation, and they really stepped up to help provide some resources as well as part of the fires. As you guys are working in your different organizations and there's things that come up, you can not only can you reach out to Homekeeper, but you can also reach out to Salesforce as well, especially as there are things like those disasters that happen. These, we're willing to help. So definitely reach out to us if you want to learn how to track more things like that as well. And I think it's great that the forms that you created really quickly, that Franklin created really quickly for the disaster preparedness, and the fact that you can actually track all of that in Homekeeper as well. So that's fantastic. Next, we're going to pass it on to Franklin, who Kylie had mentioned a couple of times. And Franklin is going to talk to us a little bit about his application document upload system. So Franklin, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share your screen.
All right. Can everyone see my screen okay?
I think it's still loading.
Okay.
I will let you know when it's up. It always takes a minute.
No problem.
And if anybody has any questions for Kylie or Franklin, please feel free to type them into the chat bar.
Kylie, thanks for the kudos. I really, really appreciate it. It's been awesome to work with you guys. Super cool habitat in Sonoma, and then watching them, how nimble and agile they could react to their fires last summer. And super excited to be able to help and participate in some of that. I've been working with a lot of habitats, and I've gotten pretty familiar with a lot of your headaches. And so you can see we've been working, Homekeeper funded the first round of online applications, and those have gone into, I think, around 20. Affordable housing agencies are using some version of those now. They get a little bit customized for each one. We've also attacked some volunteer tools, enhancements to the Volunteers for Salesforce stuff, sweat equity tracking. Would love to show you that. But today we're going to talk about the next pain point we set our sight on, which is required document uploads. So you all have lots of required documents to complete your homeownership application processes. And up to now, we haven't, I think, definitely everybody's been wanting to automate that for the applicants, but we've been kind of, Form Assembly and these other form tools we have, which are awesome. They don't go the distance for this complicated process. So I'm sure you've all thought about this in your head a little bit if you haven't tried to find a solution already. So multiple files, communicate what happens if someone uploads a file that's incorrect. What if they miss a file? There's no way for you to talk, relay any messages to them, ability for them to revisit what they've uploaded. All these large files are going to count against your Salesforce data limit in Salesforce, and it's difficult to share stuff that's in Salesforce with any of your outside lending agencies. So this is the solution
Franklin,
we have.
I'm still not able to see your screen, so let me try to request control again. Sometimes this happens.
There was another button for me to hit. Sorry.
Oh, perfect. Now we can see your screen. Great.
So I have a little write-up on this and a bunch of the other projects we've worked on, and I'll be happy to send those over. We've kind of built up a kind of an arsenal here of tools over the years for everyone, and they're constantly under revision, and they have always have lots of other Habitat affiliate fingerprints on them. So I'll be happy to send this over to anyone who would like. I'm going to go through this kind of backwards so we can cut to the meat of it, and then we'll look at how people get to these tools. So from the online applications, a service file is created. When your service file is created, we automatically go ahead and start adding your standard required documents. Okay, so you'll have a new related list down here with your required documents, and just out of the bat, home ownership application service file, boom, we've got these in here. Now you can configure these. If they don't need certain ones, you can delete these. If they have additional requirements, you can add new required documents. And if we want to take a look at these required documents, you're able to provide a label, a description, is it required? The rest of this is, we'll revisit here again in a second. The other cool thing about this tool is it connects to Dropbox. So when you create a new service file, also I'm looking in my Dropbox here online, and you're going to get a new folder in your Dropbox with the name named after the same name as that service file. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at what the user sees. This is the interface. Remember, this is after they've submitted the application. We're going to send them a link to this page. This link has a 64-bit encrypted ID because we have a lot of sensitive materials on here. And if they don't have the link to come in directly, they come into a login page, and they can submit their email or their phone number and get an SMS or email code. So we'll just do that real quick. So there's no registration process, there's no passwords, anything like that. There's my code. You can go through the direct link. We'll just go ahead and put in the code. If they have trouble, you can log a case. There's great information, look in your spam folder, stuff like that. So this is a really well vetted tool. And what this does is this allows us to use Salesforce Sites, which is a way to share publicly coded web pages with the public. But it doesn't come with any sort of authentication. So we've built this authentication on top of it. So here it is. They've come in. This is one that's I've went ahead and started uploading some stuff. So we have some instructions. We have some help text. I don't have my help text in here yet, but also able to log a quick question here that comes up as a case in your Salesforce. So if they run into any troubles, there's a way for them to communicate with you. I know that your applicants have a lot of questions, and you want to answer all those questions as best you can, but we're really trying here to make this as simple as possible, give them ways to communicate with you, and give you sort of a one-way communication back with them of what else is needed. So here we can come in and we can see those standard required docs are in place here. We have a couple tax returns, income documentation, financial accounts, and home buyer certification and identification. So this is really cool. So, this is just the description and the label. So if you wanted to create a new required document, it's very simple to do, and that will appear there for them. Okay. You can see we have this file has already been uploaded, and we're waiting. These are waiting, ready for review. You can see a status up here. Here's income documentation down here. We have a bunch of files that have been uploaded. So when they can continue to upload additional files, or they can go ahead and hit submit. That's gone to ready for review. And let's go ahead and upload just so we can see what that looks like. So I also wanted to show you kind of, this is probably the simplest version of what this might look like for an applicant. So we have joint filed 1 year, separately filed another year. We just have 2 job pay stubs here. I think that would, most of your co-applicants would have a minimum of 2, probably more. or additional household members might be uploading more too. So this is where this is really nice. It takes in any variable amount of uploads. We have a home buyer certification and a couple identifications down here. So let's go ahead and go financial accounts. This is another one that we wouldn't really know how to attack in something like form assembly or one of the form building tools, because your financial accounts, you might have quarterly statements for 3 months. That would be one upload, or you might have 3 uploads for monthly statements. So we'll go ahead and upload. We'll go ahead and select a bunch at once. Great. So those are all uploaded now. They can delete those and upload another one, or they can go ahead and hit submit. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and submit this, and let's see what this looks like on the inside. Okay. So all of these are submitted. We'll go back to the service file. And the other awesome bit we've built is this document mass editor. Okay. So now we're looking at the document mass editor for our service file. Okay. So you're going to be able to see everything that's been uploaded, the name of the required document, the file that was uploaded, and it's nice. You can see all these right here. If you want to check something out, let's check this one out. These are just small files, but you can see it downloads, and you can view that there. Okay. So we're going to look at this one. We're going to say, hey, this one 17 looks great. We're going to prove that. And but 2016, we're going to decline it. And let's see. Let's go over here, and we're going to, let me grab that text. I just put a little text in here. Okay, so we're going to say the applicant tax return is incomplete. Please upload with missing schedule K1. Okay, so we've said, hey, they're missing a part of this, and so we've gone ahead and declined that. We're going to hit save and see what that looks like for the applicant. Okay, so now you can see these have both been approved and declined. We'll refresh over here. So that the applicant would receive a notification that there's been some updates. They're going to come in here and they'll be able to see, oh, here's your message. Okay, you can be very specific without having to go into a giant dialogue with each client about each thing that might be missing or wrong with their uploads. So we are going to do the upload the schedule. We'll get the schedule K in there, and we'll get the 1040 in there. We're going to hit submit those. And if we come back over to our form now, we'll see that this file, and we'll see the files that have been uploaded in the place. And so now those look great. We can approve those, and that's good. Okay. Every time we're uploading those things, we're going to go see in Dropbox, you'll see the declined files, so you still have those. And then you'll see the approved files in here as well. Okay. And then, of course, you can run dashboards to see where everyone's at, how long it's taking them to submit these things, try to identify where people are having problems. If you go, it's a nice system that you can work around here so that if you want to change these files, you can just come in here. People are not, you're like, why is people are not uploading or doing this funny thing? You can just come in here and change the description, and that will update in real time. And you can update the standard message as well for everyone to see. So you have some flexibility to improve the system on your own as you go. Let me just show, let's just look at one more thing down here at the 2016 tax return. We also have a history documented here, so you can see exactly what the person did. So they uploaded these, they deleted one, deleted a couple, approved it, declined. So you have a great paper trail here of exactly what people are doing in here. So if they call up and they're like, no, I did this or that, or, you can be like, well, okay, great. Oh, I see where you did that, but it looks like actually you had some trouble here or something. So you have a great paper trail. I think that's all the big stuff. Does anyone have any questions about this, or what else can I tell you about this?
Yeah, thank you for the solution spotlight, Franklin. One question from myself that I think we talked about before this call, but do people need to have an online application to be able to use this?
No, this is separate. This is going to be a standalone feature. So most of us are using something like form assembly for our online applications, which works great for those simpler things to attack. But this, we're going to go ahead and this is using Salesforce Sites, which comes with your enterprise licenses already. There's no additional Salesforce costs or licensing around this.
Great, and I know Sarah Hendricks had two questions. Her first question is, can everything be uploaded by staff? And her second question is, and can changes be tracked just like you showed?
Yes, I'm glad you asked the first question. For all of these things, when we use these authentication portals, we put in a link for I don't know if I put it on here yet. We also have internal site link. So what happens with the internal site link is that's the one that the staff would use. And then when you come into anything you upload comes in with this internally submitted checkmark. And it's also logged in the mass document viewer, as well as your history here. You would see internally uploaded. So yeah, and also when you use it internally, it doesn't count against the stats. So when people come in, we also track how many times they visited, when was their last visit. So this works great if you have a time limit or an expiration on how long they have to upload their files. And the second question was on the history. And was there anything specific that you saw that we weren't tracking that you had a question about?
Sarah's typing right now, so I'll let you know once she's typed something up, because I know you probably can't see the questions. She said no, just like seeing the history of what happened when.
Yeah, so on, where's the one we were looking at that had a good history? So here we can see, the dates and exactly what happened for each required document. So you can go in here to the required documents, delete them, edit them, see each additional file, check their status, but it doesn't compare to, that's really for if you really have something you need to investigate. Otherwise, you're doing everything in here where you can have a little bit of see what date when it was uploaded, who uploaded it, and what, if it's replacing a declined file or anything like that.
Great, Franklin. I think that's all the questions that we have. Thank you for presenting.
Sure. And so just the last thing.
It's always great to see the different things you do. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I was just going to say, just to remind you that this screen here, these required documents you see would be specific to each organization, and there can be as many or as few as you want, and they can also be created conditionally. So for example, if you have someone who had a Section 8 voucher before, I know that's for rentals, but that could trigger a specific required document just for that person. So lots of bells and buzzards. I didn't want to get too detailed here, but hopefully you guys get the hang of it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Franklin.
Thank you.
I'm in a request control, so I can, or if you could stop sharing your screen, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, there should be a little green button that says, there you go, perfect. And I am going to, perfect, thank you for sharing, Franklin. It's always great to see some of the different ways that you can customize Homekeeper in Salesforce and different ways that you can use what's already in Homekeeper to do different things. So we like to do these solution spotlights every once in a while so people can see some of the cool things that different consultants are doing and different affiliates are doing. And Franklin, that's an exciting one to see from a Homekeeper staff person point of view, because as a former Homekeeper user too, that's one of the, we're always worried about hitting that Salesforce data limit, which is, you know, you can only upload so many documents. So that's exciting to see that there's ways to get around that. I also just wanted to highlight a couple other things you can do internally in Homekeeper to track what you're doing as well. There is something called list views in Salesforce and Homekeeper where you could use list views to track your application process. Out of the box, Homekeeper does have some of those list views built in there, but you could build a list view, which is kind of like a quick report, so you can see some of those things you need to see in your application process. Like, for example, how many bedrooms people are looking for, how many bathrooms they're looking for, if you verified their eligibility. You can kind of add whatever fields you need as people are going through that application process to meet those different steps that you have. And these list views are a really great quick snapshot to see where people are in that process really quickly, and then also just be able to click back into those files where you might need to update information like, oh, it looks like we've gotten their W-2. Let's make sure that we check that off so that we can see all of that really quickly. And then also, just to highlight for those of you that are new to Homekeeper, there is an application workflow section in Homekeeper. These are those different steps that people might be going through as they're going through your program. If you're newer, this is a section that we do customize for you. If you're an existing user and you want to know maybe additional steps, we can also sit in on office hours and walk you through how you can add additional steps. So one of the great things that Kylie highlighted was some of the additional documents they were tracking and those different meetings that people had to go through as they're going through the process, so that you could quickly run a report and see who's missing those different steps. So the application workflow is a great way for your staff just to know who's gone through what part of the process, if it's been tracked by your staff. And then sometimes these date fields can be really great too, because you can see how long it's taking people to get through the different phases of your application process. And then on top of that, I just wanted, I know Greater San Francisco is on the call. We worked a lot with one of their staff people, Lauren Shaughnessy, who's fantastic. And she actually did a presentation on an earlier call with us a couple of months ago. But there are some really great data stories you can tell with that application data now that you're getting it. And Greater San Francisco has been really great at parsing that information out. So for example, right here, they're just showing, you know, the average household size of the people applying for their affiliate versus like citywide data, seeing how big those households are and how many are female heads of households. Some of this data can be really great if you're messaging to your board or your funders, and it can also be really great if you're asking for local funding, just showing the need as well. And then I don't have a slide for it, and I know Lauren's not on the call, but she did do a really great presentation recently where they used their application data to show how they were trying to target very specific, they wanted to make sure that they were meeting the groups that were living in their area. So they compared their Homekeeper data to census tract data to make sure that as they were marketing those homes, they were reaching the community that needed to be reached based on the census tract data. And one of the great highlights that I know Lauren said that came out of all that data tracking that they did is they actually took their application process from a longer process down to a shorter one, because they realized through the great marketing that they were doing and outreach that they were able to reach those groups. So they didn't have to spend as much time doing that marketing. Anybody from Greater San Francisco, too, if you want to highlight some of the ways that you guys are using data, please feel free to chime in. But I know those are some things that we've learned from Lauren over the last year on great ways that they're using their application data. Great. We are getting to the end of this call. We do have future calls. We have them quarterly. If there are specific topics that you want to talk about with other affiliates, please put them in the chat box, or you can email us later. These trainings are really what you guys want. So if there's specific things you want to talk about with people about Salesforce or Homekeeper, please put them in the chat box. We will facilitate the call, and we can also bring in people that can present on what they're doing. So if there's any specific topics you'd love to learn about, please let us know. And then just to highlight, we are, last year we became a housing counseling certified counseling management system. So I know a lot of affiliates are moving towards doing housing counseling as well as the homeownership work you're doing. If you are a HUD certified counseling group, we are a system that can submit those reports. So if you are looking for a system that can do that, Homekeeper can help with that as well. And if you guys are interested in the housing counseling side of things, there are cost savings for already having Homekeeper for homeownership as well. So we're currently signing people up for the next HUD fiscal year if you're interested. Something also that was added last year, if you are not doing housing counseling, is out of the box with Homekeeper when you upgrade. You now have access to track really detailed information on group class registrations. So if anybody wants to learn more about that, that's now something that's included out of the box with Homekeeper, and that's a great way to track all of those different classes that you have those homeowners going through as they're going through your application process. And we do have some trainings we can share with you on that as well. Some things that you guys can do after this training is if you want to share your application shortcuts and tricks, we can share those via email with everybody. If you have specific questions on how to leverage Homekeeper or Salesforce more for your application process, we do have monthly office hours. Those are really great to come and ask a question. We'll go through those questions you have and visually look in your Homekeeper with you so we can talk through how you could track things. And then also in our support forums, we have a habitat forum. So if you want to ask affiliates questions, that's a great place to do it. We can also facilitate more of these calls on specific topics as well. And we're about to get to the question and answer section, but I did want to let people know we do have our upcoming conference in Pittsburgh this year. We did have a lot of habitats at our conference last year, but just some highlights for our conference. We have an in-person Homekeeper training. It's a full-day training. It's a great way to brush up on Homekeeper, learn some new things as well. And we will be focusing both on homeownership and housing counseling. We also hold a Habitat for Humanity affinity meeting there and have content focused around habitats as well. And for those of you that are looking to come, we do have conference scholarships right now. So those are available for the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested in coming, that's a great way to subsidize some of that cost. And if you want to present, we always love having habitats present at our conference, so we can have you submit a speaker proposal. And then there's a link if you're interested in coming as well. So this conference is really great for groups that are, working in Homekeeper because you can get that online training, but it's also really great because you can meet with other habitats that are doing some of that longer-term affordable housing, as well as just meet other groups that are doing program design as well. And I know one of the sessions specifically we'll be holding is talking about innovative partnerships, and we're hoping to have some habitat affiliates speak at that as well. So that's our Intersections Conference if anybody's interested in attending. Does anybody have any questions based on what we talked about today, or are there any things that you'd like to see in an upcoming Habitat cohort call? It doesn't look like we have any questions, but I wanted to thank everybody for attending today. These calls are for you all, so if there's anything specific you'd love to see or a different format you'd love to see things in, or if you'd just like to sit and have a group chat where where we could facilitate a Homekeeper chat, we're more than happy to do that. So thank you all for attending today, and we will follow up with some of the resources we talked about today, as well as a link to the presentation as well. Thank you all.
Thanks, Val. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.